Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, and the current poobah of Fraser, is Sajan Sarawak. Sajan.
Hey everybody, what's going on? I am we're in the middle of Hanukkah over here at the Sarahwick house, so I'm a little flustered at the moment because we are like smack dab in the middle of like the holiday season.
I got you, I understand. I thought it was like you were dealing with like a fire, like a menorah fell over. That's my only fear of Hanukkah, is that those candles are going to start a fire.
Wait,
I'm just
I didn't know that you lived in fear of the holidays, Dev.
you should have a healthy fear about every holiday. I'm just going to be honest about that. Every holiday has something you should be afraid of associated with it. And it's not necessarily that I'm afraid of it, but having the knowledge of what I should fear of every holiday, I think that's perfectly like a natural thing to do.
Okay, no reason why you just believe that people should just.
So if you're afraid of one thing about every holiday, or at least aware of a thing that you should be afraid of every holiday, like you could put all your anxiety and neuroses onto that one fear and then enjoy the holiday unfettered.
I don't think you understand how anxiety neuroses
I mean, I
work.
do. I actually think I might be without fear. I might be a man without fear. Which is good, because how do you kill a man without fear? Go listen to our very special
in and of
episode.
itself, I will point out, but good for you, Dev. I'm glad that this time of the year is just laid back and chill for you, because it is it
not
can be
for
hell on
anybody
earth
else,
some nights.
right? Like, speaking of hell on earth, you know what I just came from doing?
Hey, there you go.
Woo! It's actually more hell on Mars, but I beat 2016's Doom because I'm an idiot.
Okay.
I'm not an idiot because I played Doom. Doom 2016. I got some thoughts about it 7 years after its release. I'm sure
Okay.
like the coldest take on this one. It doesn't really get good until the 4th level. And then weirdly, it stops having fun things to collect and do around the 9th level. And then it just becomes like old school Doom, where you're running around looking for key cards and things. Like, there are no more rune challenges.
Sure. I will say that I think one of the biggest things that it was lauded for at the time was that it really did just feel like you were playing old Doom, just on newer graphics, newer machines, newer controls. This is interesting because like when I play Doom, I don't play for the like mind boggling puzzle gameplay. Like I don't know what you were wanting from a Doom game, I guess is what I'm getting at, because like to me the game, the game is a little slow getting going, just because it is kind of breaking in a lot of rules and concepts about like what different guns can do and how getting around the world actually works, and all that kind of stuff. And so like I'm trying to meet you halfway by saying I guess I could see how you could see the beginning of that game getting slow. But the thing about that game is like once it kicks it into gear and becomes like fucking Doom, like it's fucking amazing. Like it's the kind of game where you throw on like some hard rock in it, on Spotify, and then just go fucking nuts for hours. Like it's a turn your brain off experience in a way that games often don't want to be nowadays. Because like I will point to games like Borderlands, right, or and Tiny Tina specifically really gets into this, where there's so much going on that isn't just running around just popping heads, that after a while like it becomes kind of the popping heads part of it. You kind of lose sight of the fact that that's like kind of a gameplay loop. And so it gets really weird when it comes back up, or it doesn't always fit into things, or storylines don't always make sense because suddenly it needs to be a giant boss battle and things like that, right? It falls into these traps by trying to be something that it maybe isn't sometimes. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the Borderlands series that I'm pointing to. And I think people would agree with that. When Borderlands tries to get like politically savvy or make like really deep like narrative choices, they don't land for everybody. They work for me. I love them, but I'm a sucker. But
I like the
Borderlands 3
identity of the
specifically,
twins' father. That was awesome. Borderlands 3, the reveal at the end of who the father of the friggin' Twitch twins were was so good. I was there for it. And like Borderlands 3 had a really good mix. But here's the thing, I'm not even comparing Doom
But like
to Borderlands here.
I'm just saying, whereas, well, I mean, I think that actually it's a completely fair comparison, because I think that they take the Doom concept and run with it in a lot with the Borderlands stuff. But what Doom is doing is eschewing all of that, right? Like, it's saying, no, we don't want, that's like, it's great. If other game franchises want to build off of what Doom used to be and try and expand, that's fine. We're not going to do that. And it becomes kind of this much more like focused experience on like the run and gun stuff. I mean, it is truly traditional run and gun. And like, it does it masterfully.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed my time with Doom 2016. I think what bothered me, and I say the 4th level, but even the 5th level is kind of guilty of this. They take, what would usually be a tutorial level, and they spread it out to the start of every of like the first 5 levels, where it's like, okay, now we're going to be doing this. And as somebody who's played games for a long time, that was a little like, okay, I get it. Like, I understand. I'm not even really a Doom guy. I will say that. I never played Doom on the PC. This was not my first Doom experience, because I've played Doom, but like I had Castle Wolfenstein as a kid, and that was where I got like my first person stuff. And then GoldenEye, everybody loved GoldenEye, and I'm like, it's fun, but like I never really got to play multiplayer. When I play multiplayer, it's a blast. But the single player campaign, as much as it is responsible for probably what the modern FPS is, because of the introduction of missions to complete rather than get to the end of the stage to get to the next stage. It was never something like, first person games are not my favorite style of game. I prefer a third person shooter. I will say that. But this is one that like everybody talked about it, and it was lauded for being this return to form, and I enjoyed it. But it wasn't until the first rune trial at the start of the 4th mission where I'm like, now I feel like I'm fucking gaming. Now I feel like it understands that this is also a video game, not a teach you how to play a video game. And then also the 5th level starts with, now you get the thrust boots and you can double jump. And there's some tutorialism there too that's like, hey. But when I did get to shut my mind off,
I think you really need to look back and remind yourself that you once again, you always have this thing where you just get games and you don't understand why it takes people longer to get games. Because I didn't feel any of this. I didn't want the jet boots any earlier. I didn't like. I was already figuring other shit out. I didn't need those. I didn't need the rocket boots until that point. So like, thank you for waiting 5 rounds to give me the rocket boots, and thank you for giving me the time once I had them to learn how to fucking use them, because they're not easy. They're not easy. Parts of this there's parts of this that you're talking about that you're like, I don't want any more of the tutorial, and all I'm thinking is I could have used more actually. Like, they're kind of banking on the idea that you're going to play this game 1,000 times in a row, which is what everybody did. So like, I really can't fault them for not going as deep as I needed them to, because I knew I'd be back at some point. I knew I'd be in those boots again, and then I'd be able to fuck around again at some point. But like, so this issue that you're having of like it being too slow paced for you might be the wildest take on Doom 2016 I've heard.
I mean, I will say, when I got into like the big arenas where I had to blow a bunch of people away, I would like get feral. I was reminded, my roommate when I worked for Carnival, hi Mark, I'll give him a shout out. Dead Rising 2 came out while I was working, and I paid too much for a copy of Dead Rising 2 at a St. Thomas Kmart. I paid $90 US for Dead Rising 2, because I'm like, this is the game that's going to get me through the rest of my contract. Because I knew that it's one of those games like you play it multiple times and you have to do different things each time. Like I was so excited for it. And it got to the point where my roommate had an intervention where he's like, you're playing the game too much and you're losing yourself to it. You're making like unhuman grunting noises and you're barking and howling when you're doing well. We need to talk about it. And he took it from me and he hid it. so that I could not play it for a time until I regained my humanity.
Uh-huh.
So Doom definitely tapped into that part of me. When I like got into it and I like was finally victorious, excuse me, I would howl with joy.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Like I like that visceral connection. Like there is no controller. It is me. I am the Doomslayer right now. Was really, really cool. But I never really felt that way until all the tutorial moments were passed. Because it broke my immersion is essentially what it came to. And I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
And what level are you playing on?
Hurt Me Plenty.
Okay. That's just the normal difficulty. Yeah, that's the average difficulty.
I think that's the hard
I forget. Do you have access to
isn't it?
Ultraviolence or Nightmare yet, or is that something?
Yeah,
that
I didn't think I did because they were red, so I thought they were like blocked out. But I have them now. I think I could have started on it, but like yeah, I started at the middle one. But I think in Doom turns that's technically hard, and then it's very hard and ultra hard.
I guess I'm Too Young to Die is easy. Hurt Me Plenty would be then normal, right? And then you have Nightmare first and then Ultraviolence, or Ultraviolence and then Nightmare?
Yeah, but I think Doom 2016 has an additional one. Let me look at this. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Hurt Me Plenty is just the
Too Young to Die. Hey, Not Too Rough. Yeah, Hurt Me Plenty, Ultraviolence, and then Nightmare. Well, no, that's Doom 2016. Open up. Why are you hiding stuff? Nightmare is very hard, and then Ultra Nightmare is challenge mode. So yeah, so I did not play on Ultraviolence. I played on whatever it's called.
Yeah, I mean, because I also like that's I mean, and again, this is part of the aspect of like the replay, going back in and stuff. I like jumping into those harder modes. Yeah, Doom is about jumping in, getting a shotgun, and blowing a dude's head off, and not and anything more than that, and it starts to get too complicated.
Yeah,
for Doom.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Color coded keys alone is already too much of a thing for me sometimes.
I was upset that there were no red key cards, that it was just blue and yellow. I had fun playing the game. I enjoyed my time with it.
That is due to the color scheme of that game. If you put red key cards out into that world, that would be like finding a needle in a haystack at a lot of those levels.
Yeah, but I just always remember the red, blue, and yellow keys. But again, that could be a Wolfenstein thing. But it was, I enjoyed playing it. I got there. And once I got the rich get richer thing where, like, you have infinite ammo if you can keep your armor up, like, then the game really... I whipped out the tri-turret chain gun and just turned everything into mulch and lost myself. And, like, I had fun. Like, I was so reticent to start it because I was afraid there was going to be a story. And I'm like, I'm not really in tune with watching a story right now. And there's not to say that there's no story. It's just not story heavy. In a lot of ways,
it's not story focused.
Yeah, that's fair. Because it is story heavy. Everything you collect is lore, and it keeps telling me between levels, make sure you're collecting the lore so you can solve the mystery. And I'm like, what's the mystery? The mystery is they're using hell energy as energy right now. That's it. Everybody knows that hell's bad. Of course it corrupted the robot lady. Like, I don't know. I had a good time. I beat it right before the show. Pretty happy. I'm going to move into Doom Eternal. Oh, I said because I'm an idiot. I need to say why I'm an idiot. I was trying. I've had Game Pass for the whole year of 2023. And my hope was to complete one game per month. To make it worthwhile. And I am 7 games behind on that. So now I'm only 6 games behind. And I have, 3 weeks to finish 6 games to make it worthwhile?
I believe in you. I think I can
do it. Doom Eternal's next, and then I think Roller Drome. I'm going to do the 2 Remnants games that are on there. So that's 4 more.
You're specifically trying to figure out stuff on Xbox Live, right? To make sure that is...
Not Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass.
Sorry, Xbox Game Pass. Yeah. Okay.
So that I'm beating stuff there that makes it worthwhile.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to take a look later and see if we can find some other stuff for you to be playing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to do the sequel to Ori because I did the first Ori. So I have 5 games that I want to do. It's like just the 6th game that I'm not sure of. And I might do, honestly, I was hoping to be done with Doom 2016 sooner than I was. I will admit, like, this is a game where I'm like, I have to go to bed because I could keep going. And
Oh,
also,
is the new is the Dead Space remake from this year up on?
it is, I don't know if I want to play that yet. No, it's not. But you can buy it right now for $7. The deluxe
well, you should
edition.
totally fucking buy that.
Well, I should,
it's
but
gorgeous.
okay, but it does not help me with the Game Pass problem
Okay,
of trying to complete Game Pass games.
Okay,
But yeah, if the
I'd be
price
surprised if it's not on Game Pass. You know for sure it's not on Game Pass because like
all the old ones are, and
it
with,
seems like a perfect one to be up there right now.
But
So
all the old ones are, and then if you have Game Pass, that's how you get the new one for $7.
Okay,
So
I see.
It's like the PlayStation Plus discount sort of situation. So I mean, it's on my list to try it. I've never played a Dead Space though. But then again, I didn't play a Resident Evil game until 2019. And
Well,
then
and this would
them.
I would say this is the one to start on because like first of all, I think it did well enough that we'll probably see some other remakes in the future for it. But the other side of that is it is such a good redux of the first Dead Space game, and again, just looks beautiful. And there's some stuff that they pull in from 2 and 3 that wasn't in 1 originally. Specifically, I think some of the spacewalking stuff, if I remember correctly, wasn't in 1. It's been a while since I played the original versions, but they bring some of that stuff into 1, and it works so good. It's the Dead Space remake. We didn't get to talk too much about it, but I did mention when it first came out that I was really enjoying my time with it. I can't tell you how good of a time I truly had with it. Like, I'm seriously considering trying to get my hands on it again to play for Christmas. I'm like trying to find time to get to it again. It was so much fun, and the story for Dead Space is also just one of my favorites. It's like somebody took the story for Mass Effect and then added Resident Evil bits to it. It's so good.
Cool. I mean, it's definitely something there, but again, I'm trying to make sure that I got my money's worth from the Game Pass.
Yeah.
But if it is still $7,
somebody would argue
shot.
that like discount prices off of main games should be part of that.
I mean, that's an argument. I'm not going to ascribe to that argument. I understand the argument, but I am trying to specifically complete 6 games that are included with my Game Pass subscription. And it's gonna be. I'm probably gonna do Cocoon, but I don't know if I'm gonna complete that game. But after everybody's reaction of what the fuck is Cocoon when it won Best Independent Game of the Year.
There's 2 camps. There's there's 3 camps. There's the camp out there that's I played Pizza Tower, what the fuck is Cocoon? There's the camp of I played Cocoon, what the fuck is Pizza Tower? And then there's the third camp of what the hell are any of these games? Oh, they're indie games, so why would we why would it? Because Cocoon, it's really interesting that reaction of what the fuck is Cocoon? Nobody played Cocoon, and then the player numbers came out for it, and it's up there. Like, it's definitely not the most played indie game of the year, but like it has a player base that is just as big as like a lot of the other games on that list. But the Pizza Tower fandom has really taken over that narrative, and I don't know how much of that fandom you've paid attention to this year, but they are just fucking toxic waste. like there's no other word around it. Like the fandom for that game, specifically for Pizza Tower, has really soured like my attitude towards that game in general, which is not fair, but also the creator of that game has kind of really fed that fandom. So I don't know. I've got some real feelings about that reaction as well, because pretty much as quickly as everybody was like, what the fuck is Cocoon? It became pretty clear that the people that were saying that were a bunch of these like 14-year-old kids that wanted to like fucking like paint Nazi symbols on their the back of their streaming table and like fucking play Pizza Tower for 6 hours on end a day. It was just really gross. Like I am so over this really weird like vocal minority of the internet getting to take the narrative on like the gaming stuff, because the same thing goes for the rest of the Game Awards. All of these people left, right, and center talking about like all of these problems they quote unquote had with Baldur's Gate 3 now, and the way that like mod got taken down and stuff like that over the weekend, and how it's all part of the industry just manipulating everything. It starts to become very like red hat, like MAGA bullshit really quick in the video game industry, and I'm over it all.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's just, it was so funny to me that like, what the fuck is Cocoon? And I'm like, well, Cocoon is the one that had the broadest availability based on what availability means to an independent game. Being
Mhm.
put on Game Pass is kind of like a huge deal. Pizza Tower was not put there. Pizza Tower is a game that I'm interested in because I think it's a platformer, but like, notice how I say I think it's a platformer. I don't really know what the fuck it is. I
So
know.
it's really heavily influenced by the WarioWare games. Would actually be something that I would say.
Do you mean Wario
Um,
Land or WarioWare?
Wario Land,
Okay.
Wario Land, no, the Wario Land games, where like you basically you play this guy, you can pick up power ups throughout levels that allow you to do things. There's a lot of platforming involved, but there's also some really interesting like run through this level or fight this boss. Like but it is basically a platformer game that just has like power up abilities that change kind of the way that you're playing as you go.
All right, cool. So I mean,
It's
I'm
also got
glad.
a really weird story and like you don't really know if you're the good guy or not. Like there's some like deep shit to like read into about whether or not you were the one that actually caused everything that happened in the game and stuff. And then the animation just looks like a 1990s, Nickelodeon cartoon, which I'm super down. Like I'm all for that stuff, but like
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
way
compare
people
it to
latched
Toe
onto that
Jam and
game is
Earl.
weird.
Yeah, it kind of looks Toe Jam and Early, where it's kind of got like the squiggle bop going. That makes sense.
Yeah, some of it is that for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I haven't played it, and Cocoon was one that like I saw there were reviews on YouTube by like comedic people. Like Donkey had a review of it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so like that means this is a game that people cared about enough that people were like, oh, I'll do a review of this for my YouTube channel. But again, I mean, the Game Awards, I did not get to watch them like I did last year. And I was also kind of turned off. I had it on at the very beginning, but then I had to go pick up Dale because she works late on Thursdays. And they, like, all right, and now let's cut to commercial. And I'm like, why you have commercials on this 3 hour commercial? And it's more of a commercial than like any other award show because it's
Sure.
like, here's a trailer, like first reveal. But the thing I did get to see was the Kratos voice actor make his joke about his speech last year being longer than this year's Call of Duty campaign. And
Mhm.
then the world got all pissy about that. But I have to tell you, like, I was kind of turned off to the Game Awards when he was doing the intro because it felt so much like every other award show in terms of, oh, self deprecating joke about myself, self deprecating joke about the industry, finished with, I'll never work for that company now. I'm like, oh my God, it's just the Oscars now. Like, it's been 10 years of the Game Awards, which is nothing. Like, we're not doing a Game Awards show the level that Jeff Keighley's doing. So I'm not faulting them for that. But it used to kind of feel like cool and indie. And that,
I always felt it was the Oscars of the video games, ads and all. Like that,
right.
they looked at the Oscars and went, "Why aren't we doing this?" And literally just created their own Oscars. Like that was always the plan.
Yeah, but now it's gotten there. Like,
I mean, you talk about the idea of like the commercialization of this, right? Well, that's not a surprise considering that the year that the Game Awards started was also right after the Oscars had started saying, "Hey, the last half hour of every Oscars now is just going to be trailers." Remember when they like did that for a
yep,
couple of years? I don't
yeah.
think they do that anymore. I don't know. We haven't
I
watched
don't
the
know. I haven't
Oscars in
really
so
watched.
long.
We used to do
But there was
Oscar
that moment where
episodes.
they made that hard announcement of the last 30 minutes of the Oscars for the for the foreseeable future is just going to be trailers of movies, which is, whatever, a way to go about it. Again, we stopped watching the Oscars, so I think people understand where our feelings are on that. But like the Game Awards then coming into fruition around that exact same time, yeah, it's not surprising at all that they've just become just one giant like ad for 3 hours.
I guess I miss the like roughshod feeling of it.
I
Like,
don't know a single Game Awards bit that I can point to as like, man, that was creative fun. Like with the Oscars, like there's things over the years that you could point to. You could go back to things like I'm thinking about when we were in college, like going back to like Seth MacFarlane and doing his whole opening song about how to win an Oscar, right? And yeah, it rubbed people the wrong way, but it was at least an attempt at something outside of the norm of what you're talking about, right? Like,
yeah,
and like there's bits like that all over the Oscars that you can point to here and there throughout its time. Never enough in the same year to make them tolerable or watchable, but enough that you can say that there is at least people behind the scenes trying, right? I can't think of a single moment in the Game Awards history that I can point to in that regard.
I agree. And I know very little about the Game Awards. Last year was the first year I watched them, and it was because I was home alone and was like, I'll just put this on as background noise. I didn't like watch with 100% of my thing. I think I was playing a game at the same time, which feels like the proper way to watch the Game Awards. I don't want to be rude, but it should be background noise while you're gaming, unless you're playing Doom, because Sejan's not wrong. Hard rock is the way to go. But, and then I'm like, oh, okay. And then they were coming around like, oh yeah, the Game Awards. Maybe I'll throw them on in the background. And I threw them on in the background for that opening bit that incensed the internet, because like Call of Duty's like, why were they mean to us? Why would they make fun of our campaign? It's like,
yeah,
well,
for the record, I'm pretty sure
it.
that the narrative on that one is that Call of Duty devs need to fucking grow a pair.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
your game got talked
also
about.
What came out,
like,
because also what came out was the Cyberpunk 2077 guys congratulating the No Man's Sky guys on their new game. I actually don't know if it's game or DLC for No Man's Sky, but the point was that the Cyberpunk team had the fucking nerve on them to say to them to say to the No Man's Sky devs, hey, don't worry, you can always fix it in post, which was funny, right? Because considering the story of both of their games, right? Like hey, don't worry, you can always fix it later, like joke landed just fine for everybody, and like that was everybody just having a good time, right? But then Call of Duty devs being like, we don't expect this from somebody else in the industry. What the fuck are you talking about?
Do you not understand award shows? The fact that a joke was written about your game, first of all, your game got talked about, so now other people are going to talk about your game. There's no such thing as bad publicity. I'm sorry. Go back to No Man's Sky and what a fucking dumpster fire it was when it came out. I almost bought it because I didn't believe all of the complaints. And then I'm like, no, that's a stupid reason to buy a game. People say it's bad. That's not a reason to spend money, Devin. I stopped myself. But then,
I mean, basically now, like the Call of Duty devs are, by all accounts, basically being called the Will Smith of the Game Awards. So
that's funny. And they should be, because it's so. This is what happens at award shows. I even showed that to my parents, and they're like, we don't know what he's talking about, but that's what happens at award shows. Dude, do people not understand that?
Yes, no, they don't. Because they see it as an opportunity to sell their shit. They see it as a business expo. They see it as an Apple reveal of the new iPhone. Like that's the kind of event that they want it to be.
Winter E3 has been thrown around a lot as to what the Game Awards are.
But the thing is like, again, it's never been that. It has always been just a bunch of ads, a bunch of celebrities, and a bunch of people that want to pop in real quick to talk about video games that you don't often get to, It's a really wild thing that people want to assign more importance to it than it ever asked for, I guess is my big thing. Is like people get really shitty about how it's not more prestigious, and the same with the Oscars. People getting really I know that we have talked about our issues with the way that the Oscars have been run and what they mean and what they stand for over the years. But like my solution to that is I just don't watch the Oscars anymore. Right? Like I don't care if they keep going. It doesn't offend me that there's still a night that the Oscars are on TV, but that's also at the same time I don't engage with it, right? And like and I feel like the way people have been reacting to this Game Awards it seems like a lot of these problems would be solved by simply just disengaging from them.
I think for me with the Oscars, and it does have to do with this show because we took like such a big look at the Oscars in those few episodes we did where like we did it. Seeing behind the curtain of the Oscars, I'm like, I don't know if I want to participate in this anymore. Like I see how the sausage is made, so I'm probably not going to eat this particular type of sausage anymore. And that is exactly what I saw with this year's Game Awards. And guess what I'm doing next December 7th? Not watching the Game Awards. Because I'm going to disengage now that I see how everything is done.
Yeah.
And to my credit, I watched a lot of Oscars before I realized that. I watched 1 1/10 Game Awards before I understood it. But I will say, I am enjoying the chocolate truffle dessert platter that has been people's reactions to the Game Awards. them being upset about like Call of Duty campaign short. Oh, that's not nice to say. Well, then maybe 3-hour campaign is not what you guys deliver, right? Maybe you don't want people to make fun of you.
I think I mean, that's also another interesting conversation because, like, Call of Duty hasn't been about its campaign in fucking years. I mean, like, the last time they had a notable campaign worth talking about was when they had Kevin Spacey play the villain. And even then, that campaign was only 5 hours long and wasn't the point of that game either. Like, they have not been about the single player experience for a while. The fact that they offer one, it basically is a tutorial so that you know how to better play Call of Duty when you hop into the multiplayer stuff. Like that's all it's been for the last 10 iterations of Call of Duty.
I think the problem is that Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4, had such a good campaign to so many people.
Isn't that game like 20 years old now?
Yeah, no, it can't be. We were in college when it came out. So it's 14 years old. It's 14 years old. It's still nothing, but I think because of what that was, and then what the sequel was, like a continuation of that and characters that you knew and the way that they grew and all of this. And again, I don't have any of these connections, but I remember being with people who played video games and Call of Duty 4 bringing them to a style of game that they had never played before, had no interest in before, and then them being like, oh my God, like the campaign was like a movie. And then we got cinematic video games and blah, 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 blah. We can say how that may have been good or bad for the industry, whatever. But I think for some people, a contingency of Call of Duty fans, that's what they're expecting. I mean, look at what World at War was the follow-up to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare 2. And people were upset about that because, it doesn't have the big narrative that I was expecting. And it's made by a different company, so it doesn't feel the same. Like, Call of Duty's always got to have this little bit of controversy around it. It's sort of how Call of Duty works in a weird way. I don't know. I'm just sharing not even like third-hand accounts that I have collected over the years.
But I mean, like, but saying that because modern Call of Duty games are not like Modern Warfare, I mean, it's a 16, 17-year-old game at this point, right? Like, it's fucking, like, that's like watching Ocarina of Time and saying, this isn't Link to the Past, so Zelda's dead to me. And it's like, okay, I mean, like, if this isn't the kind of Zelda game you want to play, that's fine. But, like, this is just a completely different way that games are made and games are now. And like, and again, this is not saying that you can't critique the game. Like that is definitely something that you can do, but the way that people act like upset that the game is not the thing they wanted it to be, that's not the same thing. Like saying like the game fails because of the ways that it does this, that negatively affects stuff. But saying like, I want a game like this. Like, I mean, if I wanted a game like XCOM and then played Call of Duty and then I told everybody Call of Duty sucks because it's not XCOM, nobody would stand for that, right?
Yeah.
But they're essentially doing the same thing by saying, hey, this isn't like the Call of Duties that they made when I was a kid 20 years ago. Like, no, that doesn't work.
So, I mean, weirdly, it kind of is, though, because that ended up being the problem as Call of Duties came along. I think
they sure have been buying them for the last 10, 15, 16 years nonstop. So if that's really the problem, at what point is that on you as a consumer, right? If you own every single Call of Duty and then you talk about how they've sucked for the last 10 years, you're part of the problem.
I think it is a discussion of economics. I think what you're bringing up is a good point because it is the economic issue of it where Call of Duty 3 comes out and it is $70. But I'm not getting for that $70 what I used to get. It is mostly just a multiplayer game. And honestly, for a lot of people...
But the economic problem breaks down when you've done that
when you continue to do it. I agree. But that's what they're saying. Because it feels like if there's no campaign, a lot of people feel like what they're paying for is the single player experience. And then you get multiplayer as the bonus. And for a time, that's what it was. But that has switched. I would probably put that switch at something like Overwatch, where there were a ton of free-to-play games like that. And then Overwatch was like, no, $60 for multiplayer. And microtransactions on top of that. It's not great. It's not a wonderful thing, but I feel like people are still in that mindset where I'm paying this price because I'm going to get a deep solo experience and then also multiplayer. And the new Call of Duty, which I think is like Modern Warfare 3, I think it's supposed to be a remake of Modern Warfare 3. First of all, it's a remake of a game. So for the campaign to be shorter than that game, I don't actually think that's the case. I think it's about the length of what the Modern Warfare 3 one was, because at the time Activision realized people are just playing this for the multiplayer. But
That's
now,
my point. Dad.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
exactly
agree.
that is you're talking about a game that is over 10 years old, and this has been the case in the Call of Duty oeuvre for over 10 years. And like it's a wild thing, but to critique the game and say it has a short storyline and that's not enough for you to buy it, totally fair. For Call of Duty developers to then turn around and act like that wasn't what it
Cool.
was is fucking wild. For anybody in the audience to be like, hey, that's not fair, like they've made some good stories over the years. It's like, yeah, okay, but like there's this weird thing where everybody feels like now Call of Duty and Activision, all of them, and Treyarch and everybody involved in all that stuff, that they somehow need to switch gears and fix that. And that's not going to happen because they still make more than enough money doing this shit this way. So like take the hit, take the joke, and then acknowledge that, yep, but this is the way that the industry is, and move on. Like the ways in which people are using this to try and like call for some like larger change in the way the industry works is ridiculous. Because if first of all, it's not necessary because people still have fun with these games. And secondly, you keep buying them. Like the same
Yep.
people that are out there complaining about this are the ones that keep buying them.
And we're saying the same thing. We're just approaching it from different directions. And it's true. But then also people are going to look at something like Grand Theft Auto 6 and be like, well, I'm going to get a story there. It's like, but they're different games. And there's also, you get a Call of Duty every year. Do you know when Grand Theft Auto 5 released? Do you
It's 11
know
years
the
old
year?
at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, it's
Yeah.
taken, and if Rockstar has been working on Grand Theft Auto 6 since they finished Grand Theft Auto 5, then yeah, you're going to see the 13 years by the time it releases in 2025 in
I
that
also
game.
people are very sure of what they're getting from a game that we have seen a 2-minute trailer that wasn't even gameplay, like full gameplay footage. Like, see, people seem pretty sure. Like, look at the ways that Grand Theft Auto Online has taken off since Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. Do you not think that there's going to be a huge online component to 6 that may get more focus on it than the first online did in 5? Like, I'm not even saying that Rockstar is gonna like imbalance their focus and like the single mode's gonna suffer or anything like that. But I guarantee you that the multiplayer side of Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to get some pretty strong attention from Rockstar. And whatever that means for what's going to happen to the rest of that game, we'll see. But like to look at Grand Theft Auto as the series that's going to save you from the online world is you're not paying attention in 2023.
Yeah. And here's the thing, they shouldn't. Grand Theft Auto Online is not broken. If they're going to do anything with 6 to upgrade it, upgrade the visuals, upgrade that. Don't change how the core of it works. You have $1 billion product. They have made over $1 billion with Grand Theft Auto 5
But again,
Online.
this is off of a thing that was started, a decade ago.
Yeah.
So there's improvements to be made, and there's something to be said about hitting the switch. You don't want to fall into the same shit that like Destiny fell into when they first promised that everything from the first game would be coming over to 2, and then by the time they got around to making 2, they were like, oh shit, we could improve so much in terms of server usage and PvP connection.
Yeah.
All of this behind the scenes shit that makes the online work better, that we are now like stuck on. We either need to stick to our promise that everything from 1 will keep working, at which point then that means that we're tied to these archaic systems for how online works and we'll never be able to give people the best experience, or we bite the bullet now, restart the whole thing, get better online capability put into the damn thing and focus on that, and we just eat shit for the next couple of years. And lo and behold, they did that, and people seem to completely have moved past, with all of the problems that Destiny gets as a franchise. One of the big things you don't hear about much anymore is the old broken promise of everything from 1 coming to 2 not working, which was at the time hugely controversial, but now is not ever discussed when people talk about the history of Destiny, which is wild to me. And it's that same thing here where if they could continue to keep using the Grand Theft Auto 5 framework and all of that for the online, for sure. Like you said, it's still making a ton of money. There's no reason for them to stop it. The smarter thing is to go go in and do like retooling updates and do like major overhauls, which is not unusual for games of this size, but it does mean that there's still going to be focus placed on that overhauling of that system. Like they're just going to have to at some point. There's things that system does that are so archaic now. I mean, it could even come down to stuff like, hey, for security reasons, they might need to start updating some of the background shit. And that's going to affect the ways in which they focus on the main game if they've also got a team that's focused on the online. And you know, again, we have no idea what this game is going to be. It's going to come out a year and a half from now. So like, people getting overexcited about Grand Theft Auto weird me out, but also we shouldn't be too critical of it.
Right. I don't see. I bet it gets delayed, and I'm completely fine if it does get delayed because I want it to come out. I don't want another Cyberpunk situation with a big open world game. I want them to release a completed game, and I'm a big believer in Shigeru Miyamoto's a rushed game is bad forever. Philosophy that makes a lot of sense to me, and it's just I don't know. I'm not even like a big Grand Theft Auto guy. Like I'm going to admit that, but I don't know. I hope they don't shoot themselves in the foot. But you're not wrong. Everything you said about they should probably just start from scratch. But I don't know if Grand Theft Auto Online will have that same thing because there aren't people in Twitch living out an entire second life in that anymore. Like that flash in the pan
RP stuff is the roleplay servers for Grand Theft. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5's roleplay stuff. Going? It's not like it was during COVID when everybody had all the time in the world, but nothing is. So, like, I mean, you know, on the one hand, businesses definitely keep looking at COVID numbers and being like, scratching their heads, like, why aren't people going to the movies every day like they were watching on streaming? And it's like, well, because they're two different things, man. We live two different lives now. And it's, you know, so the same thing could be applied here. I'm sure that some business guy somewhere is like, I don't know, this online service is down over the last 3 years, so maybe we kill it. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
no, it's worth $1 billion.
But it is still definitely a huge part of that online service is the role play servers that exist. I mean, and that's true of any online game. You know, there's role play servers for almost every online experience out there. People just want to get real weird with like, no, I want to obey the traffic laws in this world. I want to work the coffee shop. I want to go work out at the beach today because it's my day off. Like, and if Grand Theft Auto is the place where you get that fixed, man, like, more power to you. You know, I'm a guy that spends 400 hours in Stardew Valley, so I can't really wag my finger at somebody else, right?
Exactly. But I guess the thing that I felt drove people to that was, I mean, I know there are still streamers who are doing it, but I feel like the way that people could discover that those things exist organically have gone away. And I don't know. I mean, I don't propose to know anything about how the game industry works. Like, actually. Like, I have my old stupid conjecture and everything. I don't know. But you are not wrong. For 2 minutes of gameplay footage that is mostly, like, cutscenes, people have a lot of thoughts about what that game is going to be.
And apparently stealing people's faces. I don't know. That guy in Florida bitching that he's in the video game is another weird one again. Lindsay Lohan all over again.
A bunch of, like, side-by-side comparison stuff. That's been crazy. But also, I mean, that's just the world, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they very clearly paced for anybody that doesn't know, there's a character in the Grand Theft Auto trailer that is pretty heavily influenced, if not a straight up spoof on. Again, we don't know the game yet, so I can't tell you much about this character, if he's even that important to the story. But anyway, he is very heavily influenced by Jared Leto's Joker, right? Plain and simple. Like you take a little bit of that, you add a little bit more meth, a little bit more Florida to the guy, and you get this character in the Grand Theft Auto trailer. There is a gentleman that actually lives in Florida that apparently calls himself the Florida Joker, from what I'm getting from the news articles I was reading, which is wild if that's what he has dubbed himself, who feels like they took his existence and are using that in the game. But the problem is again, we have less than 2 minutes of footage for the whole game. That character only shows up for like seconds on screen. And it is so clearly influenced by this larger thing in pop culture. Like, for this guy to feel like they're pointing the finger at him and not just Jared Leto is wild to me.
The Florida this is a real, man, the world is fucking crazy. I cannot believe it. I'm looking at him right now. He wants $2 million from Rockstar for stealing his
Yeah,
life.
he thinks they quote unquote stole his life. Yes, it's a really, I don't know, man. I mean, like at the end of the day, like I don't know, maybe he's got like a rap career or something. He's trying to get off the ground and he just wants exposure. But I mean, Lindsay, like, no joke, Lindsay Lohan had this same kind of issue with them with Five, right?
Yep.
When it came out all those years ago, pointing out that there was a figure in loading screens and on the cover that she felt was representative of her, but Rockstar at the time turned around and said, "No, that's based on an actual model, and like here she is," and like introduced her to everybody. And sure enough, like what we were seeing was just a cell shaded, hand drawn version of this model and all of that. And so they were like, "We didn't, the fact that you see you in this is a you problem and not an us problem," was essentially their argument, and they won. Like they won on that, and that was against somebody like Lindsay Lohan, who I don't propose to know much about this Florida Joker guy. Maybe he's a billionaire and I don't realize it, but I assume that Lindsay Lohan had a little bit more of a heavier wallet behind her lawsuit and could do that in a way that this guy probably can't.
Here's the thing. How much money do you think the Joker and Batman has? I almost said the real Joker. What do you think his coffers are like? You've introduced this thing of like, how much money does the Florida Joker have? And now I'd like to discuss what the amount of money that, like, what's the net worth of the Gotham Joker?
There's a running theory that he might secretly be a billionaire. I think a lot of people really want to make him like the alter to Bruce Wayne and the alter ego to Bruce Wayne in that regard. Like he is also, he's a billionaire, but he uses all of his money for crime as opposed to Batman, right? Like that kind of thing. So like, there's definitely some theories for that, and it's hard to kind of dispute that when you look at all of the silly shit that goes on. I mean, the amount of stuff that he gets made for him, custom and stuff like that. Like it'd be kind of hard to ignore the fact that he probably has a ton of money. But I think Nolan's like Joker like handles this beautifully. Like the ways in which we see that he has the ability to get his hands on cash pretty much instantly, to the point that he doesn't care about cash. He's so willing to just burn money because money is so meaningless to him. But part of what gives him the ability to see money as meaningless is his ability to just get his hands on it when he needs it. Whether it's robbing banks, like we see at the beginning of that movie, or going to people to finance him, which we also see in that movie with all the gangsters and shit, right? Like the thinking about the concept of the Joker having an account in which he keeps all of his money, or a place where he keeps all of his money, I think that's counter to the whole concept of the Joker. I think the Joker sees the entire world as his piggy bank.
Which makes sense. I mean, like that whole he's rich and he uses it for evil thing, I hate that. I like the Joker as the pure antithesis of Batman. So the fact that like he got no money and look what he is able to accomplish in this world. While you have all the money in the world and still a fucking guy who dresses like a clown is able to like be a thorn in your side.
Well, and like in the larger point that like clearly money is not the thing that has bearing here on morality, right? Like because like at the end of the day, it's your moral compass getting in the way of you actually getting the job done. Sometimes Batman, right? And which we praise him for, but like the Joker would obviously see as a huge
if Joker were a quote unquote hero and Batman were doing what he was doing, he would eliminate Batman. He would have no issue with that. And honestly, if we're looking at Joker as the heroic thing, yeah, you eliminated this guy who's just like going around beating up low-level thugs, hoping that it's going to affect change later down the line. Like, no, but it's a little difficult to do that. Like, you have to be willing. And I'm not saying that he should go kill indiscriminately, right? I don't want a Batman who kills in cold blood. But like if you're fighting somebody and you end up killing them because they're trying to kill you, that's not as bad as you think it is, Bruce Wayne. I don't know how we're talking about Batman. I do know how we're talking
Batman's
about
greatest
Batman.
Superpower, a lack of nuance.
Yeah. We'll go to Man of Steel. When friggin' Henry Cavill Superman killed Zod, people were like, ugh. And I'm like, no, this is the line. He crossed the line the one time in killing Zod, and he's like, I understand that killing something that will never stop when it is the only solution is something that I'm capable of. I don't ever want to have to cross that line again.
Yeah,
Like,
imagine if they then used him killing Zod as the jumping off point for guys like Bruce Wayne to be afraid of him and not just he's an alien and I'm scared.
yeah. Imagine,
Like
and then that, well,
part
like,
of the killing Zod thing, I didn't love it at the time because I went to a Superman movie and got the darkest version of Superman, and that was not what I wanted. So like I did not love that at the time. And then to go from there and see how inconsequential the killing of Zod really ended up being, to the point where fucking Flash straight up just writes out the whole thing anyway. Like the killing of Zod was at the time controversial and has only since become more and more meaningless thanks to that whole universe of films. So like it's a really wild
because it was
moment.
like, you're not wrong. Think about how our political landscape here, right? There would be people who would take him killing Zod and be like, that's why he's bad. He
Yeah,
should
he
be
can't be
better
trusted.
than
We
that.
watched it.
We
We watched
watched him
him.
take a life with his bare hands.
Yeah, we watched him be judge, jury, and executioner before, and what gives him the right to be that, right? Like,
Yeah.
is the Zod was right crowd? Like, where was that, right? Like, we needed something, some taste of that in order for us to really kind of feel like that was worth it for me. Like, for me
Yeah.
to see the death of Zod kind of not only be kind of like squishy when it happened, but then since then just become more and more pointless has really sucked.
Well, especially Zod is what became Doomsday in that universe.
Well, we
So,
find out,
yeah,
right?
like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Through
Like you talk about the Flash writing it off as inconsequential. Friggin' Batman v Superman also did that by making like Zod is resurrected as as a Hulk, basically.
yeah, yeah.
I just
Well, and again, I didn't even truly understand that until I saw the director's cut of that movie. I couldn't tell you how much is in the original that even leads you to understand that.
he what's his name? Jesse Eisenberg has a speech about like this body will be like my canvas for doing it. That exists in the original one.
Okay,
Like he's happy. Like that's how he has the ship is because of Zod. And then
right.
once he gets Zod's body, he's like, perfect. Now I have something to play with. Because I needed Kryptonian, and Superman wasn't going to give me that. I don't know. But that would have been something. That would have been something if that death was the thing that they made people afraid of. Not, well, you're the only one who survived this attack that, like, hurt some people, so we're going to blame you for it, even though you were not the one attacking. You were actively trying to stop the people attacking Earth. You're a bad guy, though, because you're here
Yeah.
still.
The amount of people that want to engage with all of this stuff, right? The video game awards, all of this like Warner Brothers stuff that's going on now. I mean, like straight up, I don't even know how to begin talking about what's going on with PlayStation, Warner Brothers, Discovery right now, and them like pulling all of the purchases that people have made ever in the history of PlayStation. They're just like all of those licenses are just going to be gone. And people seem really happy to blame PlayStation. Nobody seems to be talking about the fact that this is just another brick in the wall for the new Warner Brothers Discovery bullshit, right? But like the ways that people are engaging with all of this stuff right now online and like in the public eye are really interesting when you then look at the other side of the coin, which is more and more people are just disengaging from all of this. People aren't going to movie theaters anymore. People aren't buying video games anymore. People aren't getting online for long hours. You know, we kind of hinted at some of this stuff going on even with Nintendo stuff last week when we talked about the fact that people have just kind of moved completely away from Mario Wonder, right? A huge Mario platformer release this year. And even with the Game Awards, we didn't hear fuck all. We didn't hear anybody.
I mean, it won Best Family Game, but it won that in the pre-show. Like it wasn't part of the.
It didn't win it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big celebration for a Mario platformer to once again be at the top of the charts or anything like that. Like it just was. It was like, hey, by the way, we gave Mario Wonder an award when nobody was looking.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to give 5 minutes. I would have wanted to start with it if I hadn't just completed Doom. The whole Discover stuff off of PlayStation, we've talked about it before, right? This is not something new. I complained about losing He Went to Paris from my Jimmy Buffett album on my iTunes, right? I've complained about buying the digital deluxe edition of the Popstar soundtrack and then a year later, all of the extra material being deleted despite having paid extra for it at the time. It's not new. I'm a little confused why everybody was freaking out over the Discovery PlayStation thing. Not just because the people to be mad at are the licensors, not the licensees.
This is the Netflix problem, man. You're
Yeah.
talking about the Netflix problem. Everybody who bitches and moans that the things that they want to watch leave Netflix unexpectedly, or that things don't last because they don't get renewed and all of that sort of shit, and then they wag the finger at Netflix asking why this, and this, and nobody seems to understand that, like, not all the time. Netflix definitely has their own in-house shit that they should be called out on, and maybe it's their fault in some ways for muddying the waters in that regard. But like the ways in which people kind of refuse to understand that, like, Netflix doesn't make The Office. They don't get to dictate when The Office is on Netflix or not. So like to be shitty about how The Office is leaving Netflix and be shitty at Netflix for it is a really weird take. Because if they wanted to, if they had their druthers, they'd have all of those shows. They'd have The Office, they'd have Seinfeld, they'd have Friends all in one place for you to come and watch. Like, right? And that's exactly it, right? Is getting mad at PlayStation because you gave your money to PlayStation and they took your money and they gave you a thing, and now suddenly you don't have that thing anymore. I can see that line of thinking, but all it takes is 2 more extra seconds to recognize, well, PlayStation didn't make it and didn't own it. PlayStation isn't the one saying, hey, you can't have this anymore. Again, if PlayStation had their way, this wouldn't be happening.
Right. And I get
Yeah.
where you gave money to PlayStation for something that they had licensed to sell you, but it's something we've talked about it on here where, like, you don't really own anything, which is not good. We're not saying, yay, this is the future. It's just the fact.
Well, and I think the reason why this is kind of hitting in some weird places for a lot of people is, first of all, you're talking about a much wider audience. You're talking about how the ways in which this service from PlayStation was kind of touted. Like, we don't really we don't get this much anymore, but when the PlayStation 3 first came out, one of the biggest kind of selling points for the PlayStation 3 was this can be your all-in-one box, right? And to the point where that's what Xbox tried to do to try and keep up with some of the stuff that they were doing, and Nintendo in some regards, and it really led to a lot of really weird stuff and innovation and sometimes some bad choices and all that. But there was a point where these boxes were being sold as, because they cost $600 to get them into your house, this will be the thing that can also play Blu-rays. This will be the thing that can also connect to the internet. This will be the thing that will also let you get on Netflix and Hulu. This will be the thing where you can buy movies and TV to watch. Like, you don't have to invest in 6 different systems anymore. You don't have to invest in a cable box. You don't have to invest in a good working PC in order to have access to this stuff. You can just do it all with the PlayStation, right? And so, like, when that's the story that gets you in the room, for that stuff to start kind of crumbling around you is a little telling. Notably, it is 20 years later, and like I said, we don't sell systems like that anymore. We have a better understanding of the nuances of all of this stuff normally as a people, but not everybody does, right? Again, it's the Netflix problem. It's looking at the larger picture and knowing the vagaries of the story. It's not hard to see why people point the fingers where they point them. The fact that we don't see more people on the journalism side of things, or on the industry side of things, trying to clarify this stuff and educate people so that they are getting mad at the right people and enacting change where change should be enacted, like that's what aggravates me.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't see more people explaining, like, hey, this is a really shitty thing that is being caused by this particular concept in the streaming world, right? This whole idea that you don't own the rights to stuff even if you purchase it is something we should take a look at. But the problem is that we spend all of our time being too angry at PlayStation and Netflix and Xbox and all of these other people that have no control over the licenses. Then nothing ever changes because we're never mad at the right people.
Exactly. I was not going to talk about this on the show. I heard about it right before the last episode that we recorded, and I'm like, but that should be so inconsequential. This is a thing that, like, has been happening. First of all, it's also Discovery that's doing it, and we know that whatever's going on over there is, like, just a fire pit. So what are we going to talk about? Talk about something that, like, we offhandedly mention a bunch of times. This is not worth, like, full dedication on the Say Report. But the reason that I'm talking about it now is, like you said, I watched 3 different journalistic, like, videos on YouTube blaming Sony and PlayStation for this and not wanting to go the next step, that it's like, but it's not just them. It's not them. It's not like they're saying, oh, we're not going to pay you for this stuff anymore. And they might be doing that. Discovery might be asking an absurd amount of money. They want $70 million minimum for Acme versus Coyote when they were going to throw it away for $20 million in tax, like, write-offs. So, like, there's a valuation for it. Fuck you, you piece of shit company. But all of these people who want to point the figure at Sony for this being their problem, I'm like, no, there's a step beyond, and it's not a hard step beyond to go. You're like just choosing to stop here, despite the fact that like the path keeps going. You have not reached where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah, and there's something, I think there's a feeling that because Sony was the one handling the financial transaction that made it all work, that somehow Sony is responsible then for making sure that that stuff is always there. And that's true. I think there is a level to which that is true. But the ways in which we want that system to change aren't going to change with the middleman being the one in trouble all the time, right? Like Sony had a duty of some kind to provide a product when money had changed hands. Like getting their, like, they don't get to come in and get their beak wet and not hold any responsibility. But they're not going to be the ones that are going to be able to fix this particular problem, right? And there's just there's so much wild stuff going on because you mentioned the Acme versus Coyote stuff, and what you're referring to is like they said they were going to can that movie because for tax reasons it would be better for them to just can it, the old nugget, right? And then so many people lost their shit about it that other companies, I think it was Apple, right, or somebody stepped in and said, we'll put it out.
Netflix was one of them, yeah.
We'll buy it from you for whatever it costs you to make it, and then you get your money, but then we'll be the ones responsible for handling it from there on out. How does that sound? And that was when they turned around and said 70 million, and it's like, God, what the come on, there's this whole idea that that they don't get any blame, like the Discovery Warner Brothers stuff is just like nobody's talking about how that's just another part of that whole thing is wild to me, because it is watching a company self-destruct in real time, and we all know that. So like, what is it that people are what is it that people aren't picking up on, that's what's going on here? But I know people that bought seasons upon seasons upon seasons of Mythbusters when we were in college. Again, when the PlayStation 4 had come out, and we all got a hold of them when I was in grad school. Like by that point, people had whole libraries that they were like, how do I transfer these over and things like that. The questions about like really hard to get a hold of animes that people have now and stuff like that. Like there's some really scary things going around in terms of, this is stuff I don't have access to any other way. What am I going to do now, right? It's not just you're removing this thing from me and I need to go out to the store and buy it again. You're removing this thing from in front of me and I have no other way to consume it.
Yeah, it's it's just gross. And on the weirdest part of it for me, Sony is the one that doesn't really have a streaming service. I mean, yes, they have Crackle, I believe is the Sony one, or it might be one of the other ones, but I think it's Crackle is Sony. But they don't have like the Peacock, the Paramount Plus, the Disney Plus, the Max. Of the five
Crackle
major
is
studios,
not Sony. The important thing to remember is Crackle is I think Sony Pictures related, which is technically a different company, right? Than Sony PlayStation, like the way that whole system works. And then on top of that, they're not like majority owners of that. Like I think it's that they basically paid to get that service out to more people, because I think Crackle existed before them, and they just were like, we can invest in this one instead of making our own, which was a big thing that happened at the time when services were blowing up.
Yeah. I mean, frick, Apple could have, I mean, not Apple, Disney could have done that with a bunch of things. And now this is the weirdest email that I got from Disney Plus. Because you're a Disney Plus and a Hulu subscriber, you can now watch Hulu in the Disney Plus app. And I'm like, so if I wasn't a Hulu subscriber, though, I couldn't do that?
No, it works like Amazon Prime. It works like Amazon Prime, where they'll show you the product and you'll click on it thinking that you have it because it's there and it's on the app and it's in front of you. And then it'll say, hey, you don't have access to this thing. You need to sign up for this other service. And it's just like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, but why would I watch my Hulu stuff through Apple? Why would I not continue to use Hulu, which has a better UI? The whole
Through
thing is
through
just
Disney
weird.
Plus, you mean?
No, no, no. I mean, I have a Hulu app and I have a Disney Plus app. Why would I
Hmm.
watch Hulu through Disney Plus
Right.
when the Hulu app is on the same machine? Because I required the two of them to begin with, and is a better app than what Disney Plus is.
Convenience. I mean, you say
Yeah,
that, but like if I'm a 5-year-old kid and I'm poking around and, watching Disney cartoons, and then mom comes in the room and wants to put on her daily dose of whatever on Hulu, and it just takes her 2 clicks to just get to it, then
yeah,
they'll just watch it there.
fair. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot of things coming, but we have fun things to talk about. This has been kind of an hour that's been sort of doomy gloomy. We have fun things to talk about. We said we're going to talk about Good Burger 2. We said we're going to talk about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I have other things because I did some holiday watching. That was fun. So, I don't know where you want to go. Which door do you want to go through? Monty Hall? CG Hall?
The the well, I'm trying to decide where I want to go because man, I spent a lot of time this week playing fucking Interplay's Claymates. So that was what I spent most of my week doing. I woke up on Monday morning like super early. It was, like I'm an old man nowadays. I usually wake up around like 5:30, 6 o'clock, but this was like I woke up at like 4:30 and I was just awake. So, house is quiet, just trying to figure out what to do with myself. And so I was sitting on my Switch and hopped over to the virtual machine, the SNES virtual machine, and I forgot that they had put in Claymates up a couple of months back. And so Claymates is a fucking weird game, and I hadn't really played it in like since I was a kid. It was one of those ones that I would like rent all the time, right? And we would go out because there were very few games on the shelf at Blockbuster or Major Video or whatever it was at the time that I could like I wanted to take the chance on renting because, I knew I was only going to have it for a few days. And I had been burned in the past. I had rented games that I thought looked cool that I got home and I was like, I can't play this. Like, I can't even figure out how to get past like the first level on this. And so like that what a burn that was. So if I found a game that I knew I could play, it became kind of what I would rent pretty regularly, right? And because of that, I have played a fuck ton of weird games like Alfred Chicken, right? And Claymates is another one, and Claymates is this wild game from 1990, like 1990. Let me take a look here on the
Oh,
yeah 1993
yeah,
is when it
93.
came out. 1994 in North America. Um, but it is from Interplay, the guys that made like the Clay Fighter games and stuff like that. And Vision Works, I think is the name of the larger company. And that's important because Vision Works goes off and like makes a whole bunch of other really weird clay games
Visual
with other companies.
concepts.
Um, but
Yeah.
as far as specifically Claymates and Clay Fighter, that's all Interplay, right? And in the game Claymates, it's a platformer where you turn into various animals in order to get around the screen. Different animals have different specific abilities. Cats can climb trees, squirrels fit into other places, and things, or rats, I mean, fit into other places. The squirrel has a nut attack that's pretty powerful in long distance, things like that, right? Um, but the entire story concept is where things get really wild, right? Because the whole what do you know about the story for Claymates?
I mean, I know everything. I played the game when it was new. I did not ever get super far in it, but you're Clayton. You're a character
Hmm.
named Clayton, and
Yep.
in the beginning, you're transformed into a ball of blue clay.
How?
Ha- evil scientist?
Okay, so here's the thing. Clayton is a nephew, and by all accounts, from what I can tell from the story, he's also the partner, like the it's not what's the assistant. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for to his uncle, and his or father, like his older uncle father character creates a serum that allows people to turn into clay and turn into other animals.
Yep.
Then Jobo the Witch Doctor shows up.
All right,
Super
Jobo the Witch
offensive character.
Doctor.
Yeah, Jobo the Witch Doctor appears instantly and says, "Hey, give me that syrup." And your uncle father is like, "No, like, why would I do that? Obviously, why? Like, you just appeared, and also you are dressed like a super racist example of a of a native character. Like, it's a real wild move." The next thing that happens is so fucking wild. Jobo the Witch Doctor turns you into a ball of clay that has the ability to turn into clay animals and get around the world. So the serum that your uncle father created does exist. It's on the shelf. It disappears when Jobo runs off with your uncle father and the serum. Like it is the serum. It is there. That serum is nothing. You get this whole bit about how, hey, I invented this serum that allows you to turn into clay and turn into animals, Clayton. And then all of a sudden, the bad guy shows up and goes, give me that serum. And they're like, no. And the bad guy, completely divorced from the serum, just goes, well, then I'm going to turn you into a clay ball that can turn into animals. And then he does and disappears.
But I think he can only turn into animals because of the serum. I think he interacts with the serum pieces.
He does not.
He does not. That's not what it is at all.
It just sits on a shelf behind him. He turns you into the clay ball, and then he runs away. The serum never comes into to play.
That really bothers me.
It's the wildest move.
I remember the Witch Doctor because it's weird.
Yes.
And it definitely happens.
Then there's all these other little really weird elements to it, right? So you're going around in this world that is your clay, right? And like all of the little like animals and stuff in the world are clay. They're all clay models, and they're gorgeous. Like some of my favorite type of artwork, right? And I went down this whole rabbit hole of other clay-based games over the last like week, and really found some like really delightful ones that I've forgotten about or had never heard of that were just so gorgeous. But you're running around this super colorful world, picking up these like little clay balls, and you're turning into all these different animals, and you're doing all of this, and you kind of, there's like a Sonic aspect to it where like you could just run right to the end, but then it judges you based on how much you've collected throughout the level, and if you haven't collected enough, you're not punished or anything like that. It's just that like you're not gaining anything, you're just running from beginning to end. So much like my issues with Sonic when I was a kid, there was a time when I was first playing this game where I didn't understand that like part of the point is to like look around, right? But I figured it out much quicker with this game than I ever did with the Sonic games, because you are also given like 10 minutes at a level. So like you can run from beginning to end in like 40 seconds, but then like you have a whole other 9 minutes. What's that for? So like I started doing things like exploring and using different animal abilities to get around. And there's some really cool like challenges in that regard. It's not the tightest like transfer. I don't know if this is a SNES problem or a SNES virtual machine problem, right? But the one that's on the Super Nintendo virtual machine, like there's some bits where like jumps that you should be able to make, for some reason it was a pain in the ass to make them and things like that. But part of that is also trying to figure out your limitations, because like you can only jump so high as a cat. So like you need to figure out, well, if I get onto this platform here, it actually goes in the other direction for a couple of moments, and then you have to do some real like pixel perfect like figuring that stuff out. So like as far as like a game goes, it's really kind of interesting. But then like weird shit, like you get to the end of a level, and then these two little robots, I don't know who they are, where they came from, or what they do, they come out of the level to the world map, and then they're what clear more sections of the world map. So what you need to do is it becomes this like puzzle game instantly, where you need to move things around on the world map in order to coax the robots into the right place, in order to open up the pathways to the next areas. So like depending on what you do on the overworld map, you may bork that up and have to redo that, or they may open up one section but not another, things like that. And like so there's all these really cool wild elements to it, and none of them go together from like moment one, because I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the line somebody said, oh yeah, your dad invents this serum that turns you into clay, and you somehow get a hold of it and you ingest it and you go out and you become animals, and it's all about you in this crazy clay adventure. And somebody went, well there has to be a bad guy. Okay, yeah, there is this guy, and he shows up and he threatens and kidnaps your father, and that's what motivates you to go out in the world. Oh, and he should probably take the serum too, because like that's the whole MacGuffin of the thing, right? Yeah. Should we use the serum at any point? No, because he's got the serum, so he can't use it. Okay, so then how do you become clay? Oh, he'll just turn you into it. It's like, okay.
PlayStation 4 had like a semi-sequel to this game, and I am convinced that it is lost media at this point. I think it was a GameStop exclusive, and you played as the little ball of clay guy. I cannot find any information about
World of Goo.
No, I'm not talking about World of Goo. I'm talking about you played as the blue clay ball again in a PS4 game, and it went super cheap at like, I think it was a GameStop exclusive. This is something I'm gonna have to look for in the while we're on vacation, because I can't find anything of it now. But I remember seeing it and being like, "Oh, it's like Claymates." That's weird that they would do a sequel to Claymates.
As far as like recent like clay-based games go, like really beautiful ones go, the most recent one that I've ever gotten my hands on is Armacog. Armacrog, I think is the it's it's a point and click adventure though, like where you go around as like a clay figure in a clay world, and that's pretty cool. Really reminded me of when I was a kid. I had not me, but a friend of mine had Neverhood, and which had like a weird sequel to it eventually called like Skull Monkeys, which is a really wild. I think one of them was more of a platformer than the other though, and I can't remember which is which. But we used to play those all the time at a friend's house. But like in terms of recent clay-based games go, like Armacrog is really probably the one that I can think of the most. You know, there was like a Kirby one. Which one of the Kirby ones was clay?
I don't know if there's a
not
clay
Epic Yarn,
Kirby,
but
yarn
like
one. I don't know of a clay
Rainbow
one.
Curse. That's the one.
Really?
From the Wii U. Yeah,
Oh,
Rainbow Curse is a clay based one. Yeah. Yeah. So like, there's like the clay like aspect is really cool, and you know, especially back in the early '90s, because for a lot of these companies, you know, I think this was kind of like VisionWorks like kind of big thing was that they it was a really cool way to get really cool detailed characters, and you could do all sorts of stuff with the characters because you could use different frames in a way that you could then just get into the game quickly and sometimes in most cases nicer than what you could do digitally, right? And so you end up with a lot of this sort of stuff, and I'm convinced that this is the kind of stuff that becomes like the precursor to what you get with Rare and what you find in Saberwolf and the Donkey Kong games, right? When you get those like those really cool models like over the more flat backgrounds and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the game I was thinking of is Putty Squad, which is weird because it was a Genesis game, but you also were just a blue ball of putty, not clay. That could like punch the way that Clayton does. And also it's Visual Concepts is the name of the company.
Visual Concepts.
Yeah. It's, so Putty Squad. And I thought, oh, it looks like Claymates, but it's because it does look like Claymates, but without the mates part of it, without the turning into animals part of it. Yeah, that was a game I played as a kid. And the thing that I did like about it, and that I will always remember about it, is there's no save system or passwords, but there are level warps. And when you get to like the start of the next level, one of the message blocks will tell you where the warp is hidden in the first level to get back to that part. And I'm like, that's so cool. Because I don't need to remember some password. And I don't need to hope that the rental copy still has my save file on it. I get to just do it that way. Wow, Claymates. I did Doom, you did Claymates. I guess other video game stuff, Vampire Survivors, if you haven't checked it out in a while, they added the adventures to the Xbox version and the PC with Switch to come later. So if you need a reason to go back into Vampire Survivors, the adventures are now live.
How you feeling about the big announcement with Vampire?
About Among Us? I was hoping we'd get to avoid it. I'm gonna buy it because I want more Vampire Survivors, but yeah.
Vampire Survivors has made it big enough to finally sell out. It seems.
That's what they're doing. They're selling out. There's no other way around it. I want the DLC to be affordable. I don't want it to be $5 for it. If it is the $2 to like $3 that the other DLC has been, I'm completely okay with it. But I don't want it to be more because it's Among Us.
I don't know, man. The Among Us pricing is weird because, like, you got to remember when that game first came out, it was basically just a free-to-play game.
Exactly.
And then now there's like $25 versions of that game out that you can buy for like Switch and stuff like that. Like if you get like the crew member pack or some nonsense like that, like there's some pricey versions of Among Us out there. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta say that when the announcement came out that they were teaming up with Among Us, I was like, that's a wild choice just in terms of the whole like oeuvre of Vampire Survivors being this like little thing that could, like, it basically is an admission that they are just not that anymore.
But I mean, Among Us was also kind of a little thing that did, right? they were about to create a second game, and then we all got locked inside, and Among Us blew up as a party game we could play, via the internet. And that's why Among Us became this juggernaut.
Right.
Like, it's sort of this weird two games that could coming together that I do sort of support.
Right. So you can kind of see that for sure. Yeah. But like the hand-drawn animation preview that came
preview
out,
was
the really
awesome.
wild stuff.
Yeah.
I think part of it for me, and I think part of where I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit is that as much as like the story behind the scenes, why they are working together makes sense, as we just kind of pointed out with like their development cycles, kind of having that like indie game underdog story, like really, it's cool that they can come together. Narratively within either game, I am very confused as to what they're doing. And to be fair to both of them, Vampire Survivors narrative has always been inscrutable to me, but I've been told pretty solid. So maybe there is something in there that
Well,
and if not, it's okay because it's always been inscrutable to me, right? So like in that regard, and the same kind of goes for Among Us. There has definitely been a lot of stuff in later updates of that game where they have tried to use the environments to really try and put a nice like story around some of the stuff that's going on, right? And there's plenty of people out there that get into like the like theories behind like what what is truly going on and whether or not the alien is actually maybe the good guy, like all sorts of weird shit that's out there about Among Us. So like neither of them is in a place story-wise where I, as a casual observer of both, really care that they're coming together. But like I said, I'm often told that one of the things that I'm missing with Vampire Survivors is the deep, solid lore of that game. So explain to me how the fucking crewmates like fit into that.
Well, I mean, based on the trailer, it looks like they are warped in trying to defeat the director. Cause what's it? It's I can't think of a name. Pravola and the He-Man guy. The two of my favorite characters are the ones who are shown in the video. I can't think of their names right now. I feel like an asshole. Pugnala, and I still don't remember the other guy's name. Knives and guns, basically, are fighting the director, and then the director sends them to the world of Among Us. So I'm completely fine with that. Like, I don't need the story. The story of Vampire Survivors is we're looking for a vampire to kill. And, like, this seems like a place that would have a vampire for us to kill.
Yeah, like I said, like as a casual observer and somebody that has always thought the Vampire Survivors lore was already kind of like silly, right? Like, like they just want an excuse for you to be able to play as a dog, so they just come up with some like paragraph of text as to why that makes sense, and like it doesn't, but that's okay. That's part of the fun, right? But again, like I have often found myself in conversations about Vampire Survivors where I felt like maybe I don't get it.
No, I don't know. I mean, like, that's the beautiful thing. Talk about Doom, and it's like hours of tutorial so that you understand Doom. Vampire Survivors, you're dropped in, and it's just like, go, good luck. Survive, or something. Like, that's why Vampire Survivors connected with me, is because, like, I just get to play this game. Nobody's
maybe
telling
that's what
me
it
what
is.
to
Then
do.
maybe it's the idea that there's this weird kind of need to make a really good story to explain why they are coming together that feels so out of character for both of them.
Yeah.
Sorry. I got more story in that preview than I have from either of those games separately of their own stories.
Yeah. But what I'm really focusing on is the fact that it's 7 new weapons. So you'll play as basically the 7 colors of the rainbow. As far as I can tell, there'll probably be the black crewman and the white crewman colors as well, but those will probably be secret characters that you'll unlock that will have an evolved form of a weapon to start with. What I want, the only thing I'm fearful of is that those weapons are not going to be unlockable and able to be used by other people in the game.
It's going to be hard because because from what I can understand, a lot of the weapons are things like having the what do they call it? Symbiote.
Yeah.
Right. Having the symbiote like in you is like part of the deal, and like the tongue moves and shit like that they're showing in the preview. I'd be very confused as to how they're going to make that work with other characters, but maybe not. Yeah, it's an interesting move by Vampire Survivors. I'll say this though. As far as Among Us goes, I think it's one of the smartest moves they've made to keep that game going.
Oh yeah, it's the person who, like, you say that Vampire Survivors is selling out. Vampire Survivors is basically like, oh, you want to work with us? We'll do that. But I think Among Us is getting a lot more out of it than Vampire Survivors is. And that's, I mean, it's mutual, like, good, but I think it's like a 60-40 in terms of the good PR. Because a lot of people have not played Vampire Survivors. I had a conversation with a room of people who didn't even know what it was, and these are people who play video games. And that was something. That was an interesting conversation. But now that Among Us is going to that game, I think that people are going to check out the $5, like, little bullet hell game.
See, I want them to do like the Tekken cross promotions. Although I guess we never got the second half of that one either. But
Yeah.
But the where now in like 6 months have an Among Us like update that includes some Vampire Survivors lore being brought into that, like who's the vampire, like that kind of shit would be really fun.
That would be awesome. And you play as the characters, and I don't know. That would
have
be
a couple
great.
of maps that are like the forest and the library and shit like that. That would be
That would be really cool. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would really dig that. And it would be also cool if you have an imposter, but you still have the bullet hell of it all. But then, like, that's changing what Among Us is.
Well, not entirely. If you can work the bullet hell stuff into more of a mini game style, right? Because like that whole idea that while you're trying to go around and avoid the imposter, you also have to get tasks completed. If some of those tasks were like make it through the spear room and it's just like a whole bunch of like bullet hell spears like flying around, things like that. Like I think there are ways that you could bring the concepts of a bullet hell and the stress that you feel, like part of the whole point of bullet hells is like that stressful element of of needing to get your body into the exact right place in order to make sure you don't get hurt while also doing all of this damage. I think that if you could take those and distill those down into like a 20-second mini game like they do with the tasks in Among Us, I think that actually there's some really interesting stuff you could do there.
That'd be cool. I don't know. I would want that part of it, but I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like we're putting into this Among Us DLC. It's going to be like how the Moonspell or the Fiscari had their own little stories connected to them. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that if I do whatever I have to do as Red, I unlock Red's weapon and I get to then use it as Pugnala or the other characters. And I mean, that's the central focus of Vampire Survivors too. It's unlocking characters to unlock their weapon so that then you have it for your next runs.
I don't know how many weapons the crewmates could possibly have, right?
7.
Like again, the preview shows some stuff with the symbiote and like attacking and eating people and stuff, but like they don't really have guns and stuff. There are some silly like laser stuff that you can play with in some levels, but it's so environment dependent in Among Us. I don't know.
Yeah. They have said, I mean, I'm still on, because I do beta tests, I'm still on the Discord. They have confirmed that it's coming with 14 new weapons, and that seems like it means 7 base weapons with 7 evolutions, because that's usually what that means when they release that information. So I think it is going to be the Roy G. Biv color palette, and each of them with it. And based on the whole trailer that's out there, I think the purple one is going to be the imposter, where you play as purple and you're the imposter, and you have like it. I guess it would probably work like the whip, where every so often you shoot out your tongue in a direction and kill whatever it hits. And then
I think that maybe one of them that'll come as their baseline weapon, but I do think that like the imposter or the symbiote or whatever they want to call it, like the weapon, I think that's going to be a pickup that any of them can get, right? Like that idea being that any of them could be the imposter, right? Like that idea that any of those particular characters could pick that weapon up, just like the whip. Anybody can get the whip,
right?
But only one character starts with the whip, right?
Exactly. And so I think that's how it's going to be. But the only one that I can think of, even watching that trailer, is that like, so one of the weapons will be the imposter, right? Parasite, whatever it is, as a weapon that you pick up. And I don't know how that's going to evolve or anything like that. I'm so interested in how you work Among Us into Vampire Survivors that I'm not really mad that Vampire Survivors is putting Among Us into it. And
I'm not mad. I just I am curious.
I'll be mad if it's $10.
I don't know if this is a good or a bad sign.
Yeah. I'll be mad if it's $10. I mean, there's still a director's cut of the game somewhere out there. Like, we've seen footage of it. There's a Vampire Survivors director's cut that, like, is not available yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's exciting because the Adventures was a great way to breathe new life into the game, in terms of, reworking it and then being able to ascend it, and like rather than delete your save file, play these adventures that start you at 0 again. So I don't know. I'm excited. That's what I am. And I mean, you'll have to wait till the next new year to hear what I think about it. But that's good because that'll give me some time to mess around with the DLC of Among Us in Vampire Survivors.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, like, I'm telling my Good Burger 2 story. We don't have to talk about the movie yet, but I need to tell you about when I went to the Arby's and what happened.
Yeah.
So I've been wanting to tell the story, and we've run out of time a bunch of times. So, of all the fast food places that exist in our world, Arby's got the Good Burger 2 license. That's insane to me.
Yeah, it's wild.
Because Arby's is mostly roast beef. Now, they have the Wagyu burgers, and it's a pretty great way to, like, catapult those into the know that, like, Arby's has burgers now. But they're already done with the Good Burger 2 promotion. It's like they had it active for 3 weeks, and now they're trying to sell their big cheesy bacon burger. No more Good Burger commercials for Arby's. So we found an Arby's that was in Auburn, Massachusetts, so it's only 40 minutes away, which is good. We download the app because we're like, let's just order on the app. It'll be fine. We ordered what sounds like too much food when I tell you that it was like north of $50, but honestly, we ordered 3 meals. Like, Arby's is not cheap. That Wagyu beef burger, the whole Good Burger like tie-in, that was a $17 meal. There's no value to that meal. $17 for a burger, some crinkle cut fries, and a shake. And we got 2 of those, and then because it still seemed like the best value to get a Jamocha shake to split, their chocolate coffee shake that Arby's is famous for. So I was excited when they're like, well, you'll get a strawberry shake. I'm like, well, they do good shakes. I will say that about Arby's. And we got to try their big brisket smokehouse burger, which is like a barbecue brisket burger with onion rings, and it was delicious. But, like, that's what we got. And it was north of $50. I don't remember the exact amount. So then we place the order. We pull into the drive-thru to pick up the order. And they're like, oh, no, we don't have an order. Well, they're like, oh, Decker, yeah, you can come up. And then we come to the window. And they're like, oh, we don't have an order for you. Can you come in so we can look at it? So we have to park, go into the Arby's.
It's the worst experience ever, going inside of an Arby's. Does yours all have trees in them? Everyone out here has a tree in the middle of it.
Well, I didn't go in. Dale went in. It was like only one of us are going to go in because I don't. And I was like already a little annoyed. But while Dale goes in to discuss what might be wrong with the order, I get a call from my bank thinking that it was a fraudulent charge. Apparently, being 40 minutes from my house, one state over at an Arby's, my bank's like, that can't be you.
Okay, here's the ridiculous thing about that. And this has nothing to do with Arby's or any of that. This is not an unusual Devon story.
I know!
What is it about this particular time that's like the idea of driving a state over in order to buy $40 worth of food is like we did that on a weekend in college. Like, we would do that all the time.
I know.
What about this particular move?
I don't know. I mean, the only other time that it really ever happened, when we were driving down to New Orleans for Dale's 21st birthday, we stopped at a restaurant and my mother tried to pay and they're like, your card was denied. And then we called and they're like, oh, we thought it was a fraudulent charge. And it's like, okay, well, let's be fair. We are in South Carolina. So, like, I get where you might think that it's a fraudulent charge because we're driving through. But also, we've been steadily making purchases between Rhode Island and South Carolina on that card.
Man. But do you remember there used to be a time where like this was part of the whole like travel thing was you had to call and make sure your bank knew that they knew you were going on vacation so that when you got like a charge randomly in Florida next week, they didn't do shit like this. And a lot of banks have really moved away from this because what they do is they just protect your purchase and they just leave it on you to be like, call them and say, hey, that's not mine. And you're pretty generous about like, okay, well, we'll forgive this while we investigate, and then they'll get to the bottom of it. Like, just shutting your card off is such a rare move nowadays, because like they don't know what they're doing to a person. You could be stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, sorry, you can't get gas because we don't trust that this is a real place. And it's like, I can't, like, I have the money to do this thing. It is my money. Let me do it. But like, they are trying to protect you, right? Like, so It's this like weird balance. And again, just shutting cards off is just such a rare thing nowadays.
I'm just like, so that's what happened. So they're like, we thought it was fraudulent. So no order was placed. So then Dale's like, I'm just gonna go in and place the order. So she's sitting with the girl, right? She went through a line to be told, we don't have an order for Decker. You'll have to go back in line. So she comes out and she's like, we're getting it. We drove all this way. We both want to get the Good Burger 2 meal. I'm going to go and order it. So then she gets the girl and she's like, so I'm going to take one Good Burger 2 meal. And the girl, I don't know if she was like playing as Ed from Good Burger, but by Dale's accounts, she did not know what that was. She's like, what are you talking about? Huh?
Did they have ads up for it?
Yes.
Like, in there that, like...
Yeah, she pointed at it. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, you can do that. So she gets the 2 meals. And then she gets the big beef brisket thing. But then they also have a sign on the wall it's like they're doing a 2 for $7 deal. Like, that's the new thing that all the fast food places are. Is that like $7 is the value to get 2 things. And you can get a roast beef sandwich or chicken nuggets or mozzarella sticks 2 for $7. So I was like, actually, I'm going to do one of the 2 for $7s. Can I get it with chicken nuggets and mozzarella sticks? She's like, no. She's like, what do you mean? The sign's right there. She says, you can get a roast beef sandwich and then either chicken nuggets or mozzarella sticks. And I was like, no, that's not. There's a sign behind you that clearly says 2 for $7, choose any 2. So she comes out and she's just like, I don't know if they're acting like Good Burger, but I felt like I was at Good Burger with the type of service that I got.
See, now, I would argue that that's not true, because at least at Good Burger, like, the majority of people get good service. The hook is that it's when people that are shitty often find themselves not being able to get their order placed.
That's true. I mean, like, Ed's basically just Amelia Bedelia. He's very literal. But yeah, she's just like, that was weird. Like, I ordered the thing, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm staring at the sign. Like that. I want that behind you. And then I want that behind you. It was just an adventure. And then we ate the food, and it was good food. But, like, I don't know if I would be rushing back to Arby's. You know it was good? Because of the whole thing, they gave us a big beef and cheddar for free. And those are tasty.
Oh, their number one burger?
Yeah, their number one sandwich? Yeah. Well, like, I don't know. I'd never had one. And it's really good. But it was weird how, like, going to, like, for the Good Burger thing, they did not make it look like Good Burger, but to go there and be like, yeah, we don't have your order. But the weird thing is, like, I wish they had just said that at the window when we pulled up, like, we have a mobile order for Decker. Oh, we don't have one for Decker. Oh, okay, let's see what the issue is. No, but, like, drive around. Yeah. So we're sitting in a line holding people up. Like, I don't know. But it was a good burger. I'm not going to lie. It was a good burger. The Arby's Good Burger. It probably the best fast food burger I've ever had, honestly. The fact that it is such a high quality cut of beef. Yes, you're then paying $11 for just the cheeseburger. Yeah. But, you know. So
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like, I don't know what it's like in some of the bigger cities, but I get the impression that, like, $8 to $12 for a burger nowadays seems to be the standard at like some of these places that do these high end ones, like Five Guys and In-N-Out and stuff like that. And I don't know, I like there's definitely some high end burger places out here where you can definitely pay that if you want to, but I mean, if I go to Arby's right now, I don't know if I would spend $11 on the burger, because while they are definitely on the more expensive side of fast food, you could still get away with a pretty decent, like, $8 like meal at Arby's.
$11 would get you
like,
2 beef.
That sounds like not only is it because Arby's is expensive, but that particular meal they went out of their way to make sure they were making it as expensive as possible, which makes sense for a promotional burger.
It's a promotional burger and everything. I mean,
do they even have like grills at Arby's to cook burgers? Because, like, what are they doing with the roast beef?
Yeah, I honestly could not tell you. They did retrofit them though, because they wanted to compete in the burger space. But then they're like, but we're gonna use high quality Wagyu beef in our patties, and it's like, why are you gonna do that, Arby's? Nobody's coming to Arby's for a burger. I think it's nice that I can get a burger there, but also in terms of prices, like a burger at Burger King, like a Whopper, if it's got 2 patties, that's $10. Like that's like prices are going up. Inflation is touching everything. So, I mean, $10 for a Burger King burger, which is mostly liquid smoke to give it the flavor, or $11 for an Arby's burger that is like thick. It's not like fast food thickness. It's like an actual burger patty. And like it's high quality meat as opposed to potentially horse meat at McDonald's, if you believe the stories.
Well, again, I really do think that they're swinging more at things like Five Guys than they are McDonald's or Burger King. Like I think they're aiming more for that like higher end burger, quick service still, but higher end version of that.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's working, I guess, because they're still selling them. It's not like they did it. They care so much about their burgers that they're like, we're going to tie in with a good burger.
I just like, do the workers at Arby's get really confused when the patties show up? They're like, this isn't the flat meat. They
got confused when Dale ordered it with a big sign. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, the what now?
You want a burger meal? What are you talking about?
I mean, but this is also a big thing with some of this promotional stuff is like Taco Bell had this problem for a long time where they would offer something and they'd put out all these commercials about it and they'd say in the commercial like offer, only valid in participating stores or whatever nonsense. But like the number of participating stores was nothing. When they introduced the nacho fries, like I remember that being like a huge thing where like people would go into Taco Bell and joke about ordering nacho fries and being told, sorry, we don't do that. Right. Or like, and then like they pull the shit like they did with the quesarito, where like it is available, but only if you order through the app or only if you order
quesarito's
like,
dead
under
now.
a blue moon on a yeah. Well, you say that, but they had the grilled cheese one, right? The grilled cheese burrito,
right?
And so I drove up to a Taco Bell. This was a couple of months ago at this point, back when in that weird time when I didn't know if the quesarito was alive or not, because again, they're so fucking confusing about all this shit. So I said, hey, can you guys do a quesarito, or do I need to order that on the app? Like, what's up with that? And they go, well, we can't do a quesarito. And then all of a sudden, a second guy got on and was like, well, I could do a quesarito for you. And it was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was almost as if, like, it was like, is this the devil speaking through the voice box? What is happening? And
they call me
guy
old
goes,
Scratch.
But then the second guy that's on the thing goes, the quesarito is essentially just the grilled cheese burrito. We'll just add this, and take this off. Do you want me to do that for you? And I was like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And so so they put together a quesarito for me, and that's the other like there's so many weird elements to this that this is what's happening now at fast food places. Is essentially you just walk up and you just ask them to just like put food in front of you, and they're just like, okay, $15, please, okay, and you just hope that what comes out is something that's going to satisfy you for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Right now, Taco Bell has brought back the double-decker taco, and I had one last night. I mean, you got the text where I'm like, I'm so happy that we live in a world where we were alive when it was.
What makes the double-decker taco different than the queso cheese one that they did?
The cheese gordita crunch.
Yeah.
So the cheese gordita crunch is a gordita shell, melted cheese wrapped around a hard taco. Switch out the sour cream for the spicy ranch sauce.
Okay.
So that's the cheese gordita crunch. The double-decker taco is a flour tortilla, so what you get soft taco in, layered with refried beans, and then you drop a hard taco in it and you fold it up.
Oh, okay, so it's refried beans between the two layers too, in addition to it being
that's why that's the second deck. It's that. There's no cheese, it's just the refried beans. And they brought it back, and I had one yesterday, and I'm just like, they were invented in 1995, Sejan. They were invented in our lifetimes. And they are so satisfying, which is crazy to think of it, because like you're essentially just added beans and a soft flour shell to a hard taco, but there's something otherworldly about it, man.
I mean, it is what leads to the eventual creation of the crunch wrap, right? Like the flour tortilla around the hard shell, that whole like soft wrapped around the hard with all of the fixins like satisfaction,
Right.
you know.
And also the fact that the Crunchwrap was sort of meant to imitate cheeseburgers.
Mhm.
Because, like, it's difficult to eat a Taco Bell taco with the crunch while you're driving. But a Crunchwrap is like a cheeseburger. You're thinking outside the bun still, and you can just eat that while you're driving. So it was Taco
Man.
Bell's attempt to compete with burgers. To talk about fast food places where you don't think about burgers with burgers.
Yeah.
I mean, Taco Bell used to have like a loose meat sandwich, like a Sloppy Joe, that was their beef and cheese on top of it. But then, like, that's too weird. I think they didn't like buying the bread. Like, that's what it feels like. Is like, oh, we got to keep buying bread for these places. No,
Yeah,
tortillas
but
are
the
cheap.
Taco Bell nacho fries confused so many goddamn Taco Bell workers because places that even did have them, people just didn't believe that they were selling them.
Yep. I remember that. I remember hearing stories of that. Same thing happened with the breakfast. Like when breakfast
Hmm.
came out and they said like the waffle shells and the biscuit shells.
Yeah.
Then they're like, no, we just have the regular shells. You know what is disappointing? Pete Davidson be selling like the breakfast tacos right now. That's not what you get when you go to Taco Bell. I've tried it at 3 different Taco Bells. His look like half quesadillas with regular flour tortillas, then grilled. That's not. I just got like a wrapped soft taco. No grill was ever applied to it. And it's been at 3 separate Taco Bells. So I'm just like, the people don't understand. They don't want to be open for breakfast. And honestly, I don't blame them.
Well, right, and like you know, Taco Bell specifically in all of this is the worst offender. They change their menus so frequently. They change up what is available and what specials are, and there is a little bit of food blindness going on because a lot of their food is basically the same shit just reordered,
Yeah.
right? So like the idea that I couldn't get a quesarito, but this guy was basically like, it's essentially a quesarito covered in cheese. Do you want me to just not put the cheese on it? And I was like, yes, please. Like, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the quesarito was flour tortilla, the queso sauce, another flour tortilla. Let's create a burrito into that. Where the
Mhm.
grilled cheese, they drop the cheese on it and then they literally grill it like a grilled cheese sandwich. Those are good. Those are gone too now. Now they have grilled cheese fries. I don't know. Taco Bell's always such an interesting one to go and see what they have. And also, one other thing where you're like, it's just combinations of the same thing. It's weird that they do brunch at Taco Bell. It's weird that you can only get breakfast from 7 to 9, but then 9 to 11, you can get breakfast or lunch items. And I'll be honest with you, I like that. I enjoy that immensely.
Especially because isn't a lot of their breakfast items just their lunch items just with egg on it? How hard is it to
Basically,
just
yeah.
not put egg on it? That's
Yeah.
like when Subway announced that they were going to start doing breakfast and they were going to be open earlier and you could only get breakfast for like the first like hour, and everybody pointed out that like their breakfast offerings were just their sandwiches add egg.
Yeah, that was a weird time. Also, the bread. It was more of a problem with the bread because it was
Oh,
the
yeah.
flatbread that they would do for all their breakfast stuff.
Right. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're open an hour early. We're here anywhere baking bread for sandwiches. Let's just open and tell people we'll put eggs instead of the basic bread, which is still cooking, on a flatbread. It's weird. Fast food is weird. Now
I
I'm
mean,
like
I think fast
craving
food,
it.
like any other industry, though, like we talked about with video games and like we've talked about many times with movies, I think it's another industry that is still trying to figure its shit out since COVID.
Oh
Like
yes.
like getting people back to going to fast food places because like COVID blew up and then all of the delivery services blew up, but now all of the delivery services are just fucking awful. So like I don't order fast food nearly as much as I used to. A lot of that being because of the way the delivery services have just gone to the wayside. Like and so I think that they are just in the same boat as every other industry right now of trying to figure out how to get back on their feet after COVID. And too many of these fast food places are so enraptured by the amount of money they made during COVID that they cannot fathom having years where they don't make that much money anymore. And that's what we're seeing is a lot of this is because these places are trying to keep up with profits that they were making at a time that was unlike any other time and has been in history or will be again.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Here's where I will say though, Burger King. I know I like kind of threw. I love Burger King for one reason, and that is burgers for breakfast, or B4B. And the reason why I liked it is I don't necessarily want a burger for breakfast. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I want to be able to go to McDonald's and get just a fucking cheeseburger, regardless of what time of day it is. But because Burger King will make me a burger during its breakfast hours, I can stop by Burger King, get a breakfast sandwich, and get a burger that I will then eat for lunch. And that is just awesome. Like, to be able to stop at Burger King and say, I'll have a coffee and a burger, and then I put that burger in the refrigerator at work and warm it up around lunchtime, that feels really good. And I wish that more of the fast food places were doing that. Does that make sense? Like, am I crazy for that feeling? Or
no,
like,
no, I get it.
Yeah. I don't know. And just to throw some shade at Five Guys, they didn't put the Oreo in my shake yesterday, and that was disappointing. But if you want to like change your life at Five Guys, if you have a Five Guys, look at their sandwiches, get the grilled cheese, add patty. That's otherworldly.
You described a melt, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's what they do. I didn't know that they did that. I didn't know you could add a patty to it. I just found that out, and I tried it. It was the best fucking thing I've ever had.
Yeah, no, that's the real secret about burgers is the basic patty melt at any place. Steak and Shake does a really good one too, but the basic patty melt is all the body needs.
Yep, and I'm never getting anything else at Five Guys. Sorry, Five Guys. Five Guys melts and fries. Yeah. So, did you see the rest of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off? If not, I understand, but I've watched it twice.
Yeah, I don't know, to answer your question.
Okay.
And I don't know when it's going to happen because, again, I'm waiting to watch it with people. I don't really have any interest in watching through it on my own.
That's understandable. I have thoughts and I want to share them, but I don't want to ruin it for you. So I was curious. No, that's fine. We had talked about it. So I just wanted to make sure that's fine.
Yeah,
let me know when you do.
I don't think I care enough, but if you care enough that you don't want to ruin stuff, then
Oh, I care enough to not want to ruin stuff. And I know that generally you don't, but I'm so surprised by my feelings on Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I did not think I was going to care about it the way that I do care about it. And there's my thing there. So, I mean, is there anything else to talk about? Anything else we want to make sure we say? This week?
I was playing so much Claymates this week.
Oh my god, your brain has turned into a ball of clay, not by serum or witch doctor spell, but just by playing Claymates for so
we could talk some more about that. You know, we could talk about how they weirdly show up in like Clay Fighter and talk about
how is it weird? It's the same game.
If you want to.
No, I don't. I will say I watched some holiday movies, and I'll give a little recommendation on that. I finally saw Fat Man, the Mel Gibson one.
Oh,
that movie was awesome. I not really digging movies and then watching that movie and being blown away. But the hardest part is the Mel Gibson of it all. I will admit that. I know that. But, he was nominated for Hacksaw Ridge, so it kind of felt like Hollywood forgave him. But then that was before everything else that happened in Hollywood. I don't know. But I had a preconceived notion about what Fat Man was. I was very wrong.
What did you think it was, and what did it end up being? I'm curious.
So the plot synopsis for Fat Man was a 12-year-old hires a hitman to kill Santa Claus after getting coal in his stocking. Mm-hmm. So I thought that Mel Gibson was the hitman, and it's just this little kid who's upset about it. So he takes the job, and then through lying to this kid that he's trying to kill Santa Claus, he determines the real meaning of Christmas, blah, 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 blah.
Where do you hear about movies sometimes?
I mean, I didn't want to know anything else about it. I just heard that, and I'm like, oh, that could be fun. But did you
see a cover when you rented it or anything like that?
I mean, it was just Mel Gibson's face.
It's Mel Gibson with a big white beard and a Santa hat on.
He's wearing a red hat. He does not have a Santa hat. He does not have a Santa hat on. He just has on a red beanie. And yeah, he has a beard, but I don't know. I didn't know. And then it turns out that Mel Gibson is Santa Claus, right. And there's another hitman who's really hired to kill the real Santa Claus. and really good, like, this is what it would take to be Santa Claus with the modern business landscape bullshit there. Like, I love that type of stuff. Christmas lore, people like trying to describe how Christmas works. I will eat that shit up. I know this is really good. I really liked that one. And then, in terms of all this like licensing bullshit, I knew this year I wanted to watch Reindeer Games with the family. It's been about 11 years since I've seen the movie, and Mom's looking for like not necessarily Hallmark movies, but like other ones that she might enjoy as well. So I'm like, well, Reindeer Games, you should see it. If you've never seen it, you should see Reindeer Games. So we watched Reindeer Games yesterday, but it was the first time that I watched the director's cut. It's like a completely different fucking movie. The director's cut of Reindeer Games makes that movie so much better. And I like the original Reindeer Games, but like actual suspense and tension, and like everybody talks about the dart scene where freaking Gary Sinise is just throwing darts at Ben Affleck and hitting him. And I'm just like, this is awesome. But then like to read that people found that too disturbing. Okay. Like, they're criminals.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of Sinise's like best like roles.
So
he's so fucking scary.
Is what I love in that movie. The layers and levels that she brings to her character. I don't want to spoil it for anybody if they haven't seen it, but I ended up buying both the regular and the director's cut because I want to compare them. But I bought them on Amazon. And that's because it was like only a few dollars more than what the rental would cost. But then I'm like, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to have these in perpetuity. Like, I know that I played myself here, but I still did it. And I don't know how to feel about that, CJ. But Mother did enjoy both of them. That's weird that I called her Mother like that. She preferred Fat Man to Reindeer Games, but she did enjoy both of them. But now she's back on the Hallmark holiday train after these two little detours.
I mean, you got to continue down the badass Santa route, right? And you gotta.
I want to watch Violent Night. The one with David Harbour as Santa Claus, but I don't know if they would be up for that. Like, Fat Man was just like, we need to watch a Christmas movie, and I'm like, well, I'm home. Can we watch this one that I'm like interested in? And then I'm like, let's put on the trailer. And I put on the trailer, and I was like, stop it, I want to watch it. So okay, cool, that was fun. And then Reindeer, I mean, I freaking love Reindeer Games. It's one of those ones that's a little squishy because it's Miramax and Harvey Weinstein and all that other like gross shit about it. But in terms of, we don't make movies like Reindeer Games anymore. Like, as weird as it sounds when Martin Scorsese says things like Marvel is killing cinema, they're not making like that mid-tier action film anymore. Because
we did just talk about like the David Harbour one that came out last year. This year we've got the one with Joe Kinnaman in it. Like, I appreciate the sentiment, but we are about to like they are definitely making those movies. What the problem is that nobody's going to those movies anymore. So what they're doing with a lot of those movies is they're going straight to DVD and ending up at Walmart. They're going onto specific channels or streaming services. Like, you're talking about The Gray Man. You're talking about like these movies exist. The problem is that nobody's paying to go and see them in theaters anymore. So they're just not coming out and being put in front of you.
Yeah. And I guess on some level because of how we were raised, TV movies, and I don't want to be rude about this. We kind of talked about it in, well, we'll get to what's happening next week so that everyone understands what's happening. I don't give as much credence to a TV movie as I do to a theatrical release. And like, that needs to be something I unlearn.
Do you also feel that way though about streaming movies and straight to DVD movies?
A little bit. Like The Irishman, the fact that The Irishman played in theaters around me, I'm like, okay, so it's a proper movie. But then other stuff that's straight to Netflix, I'm like, well, it's just a Netflix movie. It's a straight to streaming. It's essentially a TV movie to me. Depending on, it doesn't even matter who's in it. Like, it's how my mind processes it. And it's a very interesting thing that I know I need to unlearn. I know it's learned like perception from what TV movies were when I was a kid, and I need to unlearn that.
Yeah, I mean, like, because that's the big thing is that we aren't putting these movies in theaters anymore, and so you don't have like a huge consensus of people that are going and this is the movie everybody saw this Christmas, so this is the movie we're all talking about. Like that aspect of it is gone for sure. But the thing is like movies are still out there. Movies are still getting made. And I I applaud the idea that some more of these movies probably should be back in theaters. The theatrical experience is a fun one, and like you're saying, it gives it an air of like respectability and importance that like just being able to turn on your TV and have it be on kind of eliminates that, right? But like there are movies out there that are getting made like that. We just, people just don't want to go and spend the money to see them in a theater space. But if that's the case, then we really do as a people need to reconsider the ways in which we take in movies then, because if we don't want to go to the theater anymore and all of our options are whatever's coming straight to DVD or being released on streaming services, then we have to stop acting like that stuff is somehow lower tier because it's not in a theater.
Right. It's just, I don't know. It was an interesting thing to like Fat Man. As far as I know, that was straight to DVD. I don't know if it ever got a theatrical release. It probably did because it was
a small one.
Yeah, but there was also a time where I would travel to go see movies in theaters, like What We Do in the Shadows. As far as I know, that never came out in Rhode Island. I saw it twice in Connecticut, once in New Haven, once at the Mystic Luxury Cinema. And so that's strange to me because look at what that movie has wrought, a 6-season TV show that everybody kind of talks about. So,
well, I mean, Taika Waititi's entire career. I mean,
yeah. Is those ups and downs. So that's true. I mean, the Jojo Rabbit, I had to go to Connecticut to see because I don't think it played near us. It probably did eventually, but because it was Oscar nominated. But at the time when it released, the closest place was Mystic. And it's well, I want to see it before everybody's talking about it. And God, that movie, a lot of movies to talk about. But if you have nothing else to add, and I have nothing else to add, I think we need to let people know what's going to be coming up. Because Season is my favorite time of the year.
It's a Merry Ninja Christmas.
It's Ninja Christmas. And the bounty that we were blessed with 30 years ago in 1993 with Surf Ninjas and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, subtitle whatever, the Sacred Scroll of Death, Turtles in Time, the one where the costumes change.
The one where they're samurai, not ninja, which is weird.
The adaptation of issues 46 and 47 of the original Mirage run. Take your pick. We got both of them. So Sejan and I, we're going to be taking a little vacation during Ninja Christmas. So next week, instead of a hot button new, we're going to be talking about whatever happened this week, you're getting Surf Ninjas. And then on Christmas Day, cuddle up with the family and listen to us talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Should be some good stuff. I'm excited. When's the last time you saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, be honest?
Well, sat down and properly watched it probably about 10 years or so. I will say that it is a fucking favorite at bars around here. It's up there with John Wick 2 or whatever one introduces Lawrence Fishburne as the bird guy, because I've seen those scenes 1,000 times when I go out to theaters, go out to bars, I mean. But Ninja Turtles 3 specifically seems to be the only Ninja Turtles movie I get when I'm out in the wild nowadays.
That's insane. I mean, I love the soundtrack.
But I have not sat down and truly watched that movie in probably about 15 years at this point.
When I started spinning the soundtrack a bunch, 2012, I watched the movie again. And okay. I'm excited to now watch it with the Stay Report vision and then report on it. So you got Surf Ninjas first, then you got TMNT 3. And you know what? We talked about Ben Affleck. I'm just going to say it right now so that everybody knows in case we forget. On the first of the year, we said we were going to talk about Paycheck. That's going to be your issue for 1/1/2024. Well, I've recorded it in 2023, but then we're talking about it in 2024. And the fact that the movie is about seeing past the edge of the earth into the future, it seems like the only way we could possibly release it. Am I wrong, CJ?
Yeah, I like that that's your takeaway from Paycheck and not the whole forgetting what you did for a 3-year period of your life, because that's part of the gig.
No. The Paycheck machine is what I remember from Paycheck. And then the reason why he had to forget about the paycheck machine. Oh, paycheck. That you're a movie I've seen one time. I call it the paycheck machine.
The paycheck machine.
Oh, so that's good. And also, just while we're doing all this place setting and everything, our very special episode is going to come out before Christmas on the 21st, so the winter solstice. And that's because it's also the 30th anniversary of The Nightmare Before Christmas. And it would feel wrong to have us watch it and talk about it and then release it after Christmas. So just like plan your Say Report consumption accordingly. And then new episodes will begin recording with, I think, the end of season 7. So, God, can you believe in 7 seasons of the Say Report? Is nuts to me. So
I
we'll
can't wait to see who we bring in to really liven up the place next year.
Oh, with the 8th season, that's usually when Cousin Oliver is introduced, or Poochie. So conjecture and all that stuff. Also, for 2024, that's when we're going to do the Discord server. So right now, if you want to get in touch with us, we're still going to be checking the email. It's thesayreport@gmail.com. Send us any of your thoughts, suggestions, Poochie-esque ideas for spice-up characters for the Say Report. All going to go to thesayreport@gmail.com. And again, if it's specifically for myself or Sejin, just make sure you put our names in the subject line. Anything else you want to say, Sejin, before we go away on vacation to these lovely listeners?
Just Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Ninja Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Ninja Christmas, and have a Happy New Year. We'll see you after Will brings us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejin Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.